thanks for coming. We know it might have been difficult this morning, but it's great to see so many faces of the people that we've had either one-on-ones with or that we've met through casual conversation. So we're lucky that we're doing this at that point in time. But if you haven't met, I'm Julia Cooper. I'm the Director of Consulting, which is workplace strategy, portfolio planning, change management, et cetera, for HoK.
Good morning, I'm Aida Ribar. I'm Regional Leader of WorkPlace for San Francisco and Seattle, based in San Francisco office at HoK.
We've heard a lot about diversity, equality, and inclusion this week. And this morning, we're going to level it up a little bit. We're just going to scratch the surface with what we're showing you today. We have a ton of information, and we'll show you at the end some of the links to get to the information that we have. So know that this is going to be somewhat cursory, but we have a lot of information that you can gather later. So we feel really passionately about this at HoK. We design spaces that respond to the needs of people and the environment. And equity and inclusion are part of that. That's a core value at HoK. We have an ecosystem of values, and they are parts and pieces that support and reinforce one another. And all of these things are very important to designing an equitable experience for everyone. So what's the difference between equality and equity? Because they are not the same thing. As we've talked about a couple of times, it does bear repeating right now that one size does not fit all. Equity means that everyone has a fair opportunity. It's leveling of the playing field for everybody. And so what is neurodivergence? What is neurodiversity? Neurodivergent people's neurocognitive functioning is different from what people consider the dominant social norm. So there's neurocognitive function is different from typical, kind of neurotypical people. People here are great problem solvers, they're very innovative, they are insightful, and by nature, they think outside of the box. There's a lot of people that are neurodivergent that are famous, and they're famous because they're groundbreakers, or they're very innovative, or they're extremely talented. So if there's 100 people in this room, 14% are neurodivergent, but only 7% identify as being so. So we all need to really think about this. There's some really great qualities that neurodivergent people have. In fact, if you tap into them, you create the right environment, they can be 140 times more productive. And that's something incredible to tap into. They kind of have some superpowers if you can give them the right environment. Billie Eilish has identified as having Tourette syndrome in 2018. Einstein was on the autism spectrum. So we really need to really cater to these people. They're very important to our business. This is a great quote. It's from an autistic student. I'll just read it out loud. "We are freshwater fish in salt water. Put us in fresh water and we function just fine. Put us in salt water and we struggle to survive." Creating the right space, giving the people the tools that they need, which is the office, is the way to create a place for people to feel comfortable and do their best work. So there's a new definition for the World Health Organization for disability, and it's right up here on the screen. And what it means is that when people come together and intersect with the environment, if space is an enabler, that works fine. If it's not, if it hinders them, then it doesn't support their needs. And that is what we're really trying to do. We kind of talked about that in the very beginning. Again, the sensory challenges that people have, there's 7 senses actually. I think people normally think that there's 5, but there's what we hear, there's what we can see, there's what we can touch and feel, and then there's what we can smell and taste. But then there's proprioception and vestibular. And the first is, just aware of your spatial surroundings, kind of what's the difference between you and me, or kind of getting in close. And vestibular is really about balance and the inner ear. So how can design really address all of these senses? That's really what it comes down to, these sensory stimuli, and how design can address them.
So since the pandemic, the world has shifted. We have learned a lot about sensory intelligence that can be applied in this new era. So when designing spaces to be inclusive, it's all important to provide a variety of the options. All aspects of the space, the color, lighting, materiality, elements in field of view and sensory stimuli need to be designed with purpose and intent. So we have 2 ends of spectrum and in between. So we start on the left side, you have hypersensitive, which is the group that needs more simple design, light, natural colors, and then clean organic spaces with a little of noise. On the right side, you have hypersensitive that they need to function more with the textures. They need busy spaces. You need visual interest and space to move and fidget around. So we have different space types caters to different types of activity. So we have spaces, they go from more focus to more interactive. So the zoning is really important through the design of the spaces. We'll have another example on the next slide. So here on this slide, we can see we have focus, we have process, create, meet and learn, refresh, and social. And as I said, they go from the quiet to more interactive. So this is the seating option, and on the north, you can see assigned work points, which is more typical design with the benching, few conference rooms. And on the south of the plan, you can see the free choices work points, where you can find a place to meet. You have more options to meet, to work, to collaborate. On this plan, you can see detailed the settings, and then also how we apply the same rooms, and this is examples of the hyper and hyper with the concentrate, with creating and meeting, and the variety of the spaces. Really the key is the sensory zoning, which goes from the left to the right. It goes from the more quiet to more interactive and social. These are examples of the spaces that sometimes you have to blend. We can design the spaces to be separate, hyper or hyper, but in the common places, sometimes you have to blend, and then you can design like writing surfaces for the hyper, and then you have the variety of the seating for the another group, so then you can blend all this in the one space. On this example, we are seeing the small intimate seating, solo seating, some little niches, and then also the active place for the hyper. Then they can have some activity and different lighting. On this example, we have on the right side a very structured layout of the office space, some colors and pattern on the right side, and on the left side you have options of the seating, which more function better for the hyper, and then you have open ceilings and the variety of the seating. This space is designed all for the hyper, and it's natural biophilia, natural materials, clear circulation, no distractions, and seating options. So this is another example of the blend. When I need to design in one space, you can have the soft dividers as a curtain or shelving, or you can have variety of the seating and some whiteboard for the people who like to move around when they're designing and collaborating. So the takeaways for the built environment design strategies, we have a couple of them, and they're very, the choice is the options where to work. The next one is control of the light, temperature, time, when you have the booking system, quiet, to have dedicated quiet rooms, movement space that allows you to move around, daylight, natural daylight, adjustments is the furniture, ergonomics, that's really important, and the zoning, the work points in the low traffic area, space to retreat. So these are really the key elements in built environment to succeed in design for inclusive.
I think you'd probably all agree that it really is the right thing to do, but it's also the smart thing to do. It really is a driver for business success. So we really want people to focus on that. And if you have to sell it up, that's something to focus on. It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be a lot of changes. You don't have to redesign your entire floor, your whole portfolio. You can do it incrementally on projects, and you can overlay these design principles in multiple different ways and different scales.
Diversity is about counting the people, but inclusion is about making the people count.
All right, so here's just a list of all of the places that you can get to if you go to HoK.com. They almost all start with that. It's really a treasure trove. There are white papers. There are There's a project that we did with Target at the bottom, which is like a specifying tool that's interactive, where you can actually interface based on what you think your needs are for your diverse population. So there's so much more out there. We really did just touch on the surface. We can back up to any slides if you want.
And just to share that the clients are really acquiring, they're getting, asking the questions about the neurodiverse design. And I was in July at the Twitter office in San Jose, where it was really, like when I walked in, it was the focus and collaboration, the signs on the left and right, which I thought they already designed into neurodiversity. And what I heard from Joseph, who was from Twitter, he was with me on the panel, that they're planning to design, I think, some other offices, which is great. And we are getting requirements from our clients, Capital One, and we have a couple of confidential clients as well. So we are designing towards the neurodiversity.
So we do have time for some questions. If we can answer them, we will. Does anybody have anything that they would like to ask or literally to go back to? As you saw, I know how to use the backup part of the clicker, so we could do that. I can't really see if there is.
This was amazing. Thank you. So curious if you've done any research on the residences of individuals at different positions on the neurodiversity spectrum, and if you've been able to observe how people set up their homes, and if there are any important differences.
Actually, we have not. I think that's a really interesting point. I mean, the same question could be asked about how people set up their home work environment for the hybrid work, but we have not done that. I'm sorry, I can't answer that one.
Yeah, but we can check on that because we have our hospitality team in Hong Kong and New York, so they may be applying this. So we can check for the studies.
Yeah, 2 questions. Fascinating work. Thank you so much. I've got a daughter and a son-in-law, both on the spectrum. And so are there a list of companies that you guys have found that are actually embracing that and have policies for people? It's really hard just to find who's trying to do that kind of work.
So I can share, when I was in the panel for Cornett in North California in July, on the panel was the company from Sacramento. They are hiring Neurodivergents. So I can share that information with you. So maybe they have the list of companies, but and also they're very successful in finding them jobs.
And they're actually recruiters, so they're a placement company for people that have any kind of condition. They're really strong. They have a lot of different clients. So we can put you in touch with them if you come and see us and give us your card.
So the question might be for you or for the audience as well. I'm curious where you've seen the most impact done in this arena for an existing portfolio. I think these are amazing principles when you think about new construction or new build outs, new renovations. What would your recommendation be for an existing portfolio, or if anyone kind of else in the audience wants to answer that as well, that has had the most impact at scale for the employee population?
I hope I'm going to answer this the right way, but I think many people are already doing this, and it's that whole notion of choice. When you create an environment where everybody doesn't have the same desk and all they have is a desk and a meeting room to go to, you're maybe even halfway there because you're giving people the option and the choice to do the work that they want to do in an environment or a place that actually supports that work. Now, whether or not it has all the design elements in terms of the calming or the exciting colors or movement of furniture, but that I think is the #1 thing that people can do. And that also is so salient to what we're doing in terms of reorganizing in a different approach to densifying or working in a different way in the workplace. I don't know if anybody else in the audience wanted to answer or have a comment. No?
Julia and Aida, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.